You're listening to The Unexplained, a series on the strange occurrences that have been witnessed or have happened on the Boys Fort Reservation. Brought to you by KBFT, 89.9 FM, and the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Danielle Paradas is a Nett Lake resident. She works the night shift, and periodically she'll step outside to enjoy a cigarette while waiting for the hours to go by. One night, she said she saw what looked like a UFO right in front of her.
Okay, bonjour, this is Danny Paradas. I live on the Lake Vermilion Reservation. Chaz asked me to tell a ghost story. It's not exactly about ghosts, but it is about a UFO sighting. I was working late for the housing department on a Sunday. I think I had a deadline that Monday for something I had to get done. And so the government center is right next to Nett Lake, of course, and Spirit Island out there. And anyways, when I do work late, I smoke, so I went outside to go have a cigarette, and up in the sky, it looked like there was a plane coming kind of towards the government center from across the lake. There were lots of clouds, and so when I was coming through the clouds, I'm like, that's a really low-flying plane late at night. It was just weird, so I was just watching it, and then it stopped right almost as soon as it was kind of breaking through more of the clouds, and like very, very close in terms of like how close it was to the ground. Well, anyways, it was just stopped, and it was hovering, and then all of a sudden I could see more of like its structure, and it was more of a triangle shape. I know UFOs are thought to be like saucers, but this one was a triangle, and I just stared at it just like whoa, and it started moving like, I don't even know how to describe it, like clockwise, not spinning like a saucer, but it was spinning like vertically, like up and down. And as it was spinning around in the sky, it started shooting red beams of light that went through the air pretty fast and would just kind of dissipate in kind of all directions. And I was just staring at this, and I had two boys at home down on Pineview East with a babysitter. I called the babysitter to make sure I was not going crazy, that there was something. When she answered, I said, hey, can you look towards Nett Lake? Tell me what you see. Is there anything in the sky? And she goes, oh my God, what is that? And I said I didn't know. And we both kind of just stayed on the phone together, talking about what it could have been. We're like, UFO. After the phone call, I was done with my cigarette. I put the cigarette out. I head back in to get my work done. It was still there. I come back out about an hour later. It is still in the sky. I drive home, get inside. My babysitter goes home. We stare at it, and never quite figured out what exactly it was other than a UFO. I started Googling like spinning, flying objects or whatever. But I never really found anything exactly like what I had seen. All right, that is my spooky ghost / pseudoscience Halloween story.
The Unexplained is brought to you by KBFT 89.9 FM and the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
Bonjour Gakana Oya, Grace Indigenous Jagana Shimoan, Wawate Kwe Indigu, Ojibwe Moen. You are tuned into KBFT Boys Fort Tribal Radio's Native Writing Fest with author, novelist, essayist, grant writer Brian Malloy, which took place September 7th at the Boys Fort Tribal Government Center in Nett Lake.
Hi, my name's Brian Malloy, and I am a novelist. I am dual national of Ireland and the United States. My grandparents came over and they started a bar in Philadelphia called Malloy's Bar, and it opened maybe less than a year before Prohibition. So my grandmother changed businesses real fast and started supplying bootleg to the neighborhood, and that's how they supported themselves during Prohibition. And I've been in Minnesota now since 1978. I came here to go to University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities to their general college program. And I've been here more or less on and off since then, and been living in the same house in South Minneapolis for about 30 years now. Started writing in college, thought I would be the next great American novelist. But then I graduated and I had student debt, so I worked the day jobs for a long time and didn't start writing again seriously until I was in my 40s, I'd say. I had my first novel published by St. Martin's Press called The Year of Ice in 2002. I have 4 novels out right now, 2 with St. Martin's Press, a young adult novel with Scholastic, and then my new novel, After Francesco, just came out in June, and it's about the AIDS pandemic in the Twin Cities and in New York City during the year 1988.
What inspired you to start writing?
I lie a lot, so fiction came very naturally to me. So, in my family, there's a lot of storytellers, and particularly if the family business is a bar, there's a lot of stories being passed back and forth. Irish stories, and then immigrant stories, and then just stories of people in the neighborhood. The bars in the West Passyunk neighborhood of Philadelphia, and those are all row homes, and everyone knows your business. It's in the city, but it feels very much like a small town because people sit down their stoops and they see who's coming and going every day, and, tend to talk about each other. And like my Uncle Jack said, he could never even go down to the corner store without getting interrogated by all the neighbors about where is he going and what's he going to buy, and he likes them O. Henry bars, and it's it's not a very private place, and everyone kind of knows everyone's business, and there's a lot of good stories that come out of it too. From that, just the oral storytelling, I started writing in grade school, and mostly adventure stories about me and my friends doing amazing things. And then when I got to college, I started on novella, and like a lot of first books, it's semi-autobiographical, and it's pretty awful. And it was rejected by every publisher out there, and so I just put it away, and I haven't looked at it since. But it was a good first exercise on how to write something that's novella length. And I wrote 2 more books after that before my debut novel was published. So my debut novel is actually novel number 4. But it's the first one to get published, and it's called The Year of Ice. And that also takes place in Minneapolis, but in 1978. And then Brendan Wolf is the second novel, and that takes place in Minneapolis and then up in the Boundary Waters on the Gunflint Trail. The young adult novel is called 12 Long Months, and that takes place in Le Sueur, Minnesota, and New York. And then the new book, After Francesco, takes place in Minneapolis and New York, and then there's a reference to Boys Fort in it. One of the characters has a child living up here, but we don't actually visit it in the book. It's just referenced. A novella is like a novel. I think it comes from the Latin, which means the news. Novella literally means little news.
I'm interested in where and why you wanted to reference Boys Fort in your story.
I've referenced it in After Francesco, and then I also referenced it in a short story called Boundary Waters. And one of the characters in Boundary Waters, which hasn't been published, I haven't submitted it yet, actually grew up on the reservation, and she works as a 9/11 call dispatcher in a fictional county that I created because I wanted to avoid some things, because the story Boundary Waters is based on an actual event that happened outside of Ely in the early 2000s, when some local guys got drunk and took out their motorboats and guns and started threatening people who were camping in the Boundary Waters. And it made the national news, and it kind of highlighted the tension between, the 612ers who go up there to vacation, and then the local people who really want to who support mining. And I thought I'd write this story and try to do different points of view.
Miigwech Bizendawieg. Thank you for listening to Asabikone Zaga Ikaning Bizendamoen, KBFT 89.9 FM. This event has been brought to you by Boys Fort Tribal Radio and the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. For more info, visit www.kbft.org.
Bonjour, Dean Shinnecock, Anatodam, Wild Station. I grew up here in Nut Lake. I went to the school. the grade school here. I lived with my grandma and Gishik, Dennis Gishik, my cousin. And the other thing I wanted to share tonight too was when I saw the coming of the lights. Because when I was living here on the res with grandma, there were no lights here, no running water, there was no storage, nothing. It was really poor. And a lot of the people here gave. I remember my uncle, we called him Uncle Young, but his name was Ernest Gishik. And he would go hunting, and he would come home with things, food or whatever for grandma. And that's where I learned how to start tanning. I heard the language a lot. I never heard my grandma gossip. I never heard her put down anybody in that lake. Nobody. And that's where I learned that, to be humble. And this is why I chose to go this way. Well, I should say, Pachamani chose me. But I've been walking this way since I've been 17. The spirits came to me and scared the heck out of me and shook my bed. And I went right into grandma and I said, somebody's in my room. So as time went on, I found out what my walk was going to be. I began to learn a lot, how to behave, how to listen, how to be respectful, how to have humility. And I did that. And I always gave more than what people gave me. And we gained a lot through that. And now my great-great-grandma, I never thought I'd live this long, but I've carried my spirituality throughout, and I've walked this way. I've had men condemn me, I've had elders condemn me, but this is my walk. And I know, there's a lot of things I know, and a lot of ceremonies I've been taught to do, and even when I was down in the cities, I was down in the cities for 30 years. I went to college down there, and whenever I wanted to have a sweat lodge or go see a spiritual person, I had to travel. And I was raising my 3 children from a divorce. And I traveled all the way from the cities, all the way up to Red Lake, Boysport, White Earth. My dad was from White Earth. So I got to know a lot of the spiritual people, being that young. One of the things how I became a drunk, I'm a recovering alcoholic. And how I became was, I have a daughter, her name was Jolene, who passed away. And she was my 3rd child. I'm a good mom. I make Indian swings for all my kids. I made them moccasins. Give them Indian names to protect them before they head out in society. When she died of SIDS. And before that, Grandma Gishik and the Mo South ladies and other ones come and told me that I would be doing spiritual things. Because I don't gossip about people. I don't gossip about people, if they're running a ceremony. I don't judge. That's what I was taught. You can't do that. The only one that's holy is the one up there. So that's what I learned. I never talked about anybody. I never got into gossip. And then when I became an alcoholic after my daughter died, and I went to treatment, and this is the part I want a lot of people to understand, is that when I went to treatment, they put people in chemodependency in the nut house, and that's where I went. The CD part was on this side, the nut house was on this side. But the thing was, they didn't know too much about CD then. And so when the CD people, we'd have to go and eat, we'd be in line. Colonization, we had to be in line. And then one day, this black guy came running towards me and he had a knife. And I didn't see that, and one of the other guys pulled me out of the way. But I stayed on because I wanted my sobriety. I wanted to find out how to stay sober. I know how to be sober, but I wanted to stay sober. But the thing was, I still hadn't forgiven the Creator for taking my daughter. And that was a secret thing I kept. And then it festered, and it festered, and it festered. And pretty soon I was on a drunk again. And when I sobered up, I felt so bad, that guilt. So I went and seen a medicine woman, and she was from Red Lake. And she said, you have to deal with that, but you're going to have to go that spiritual way. That's how I started my spiritual journey. And remember, this is my walk. And I would never, ever do anything to hurt anybody. Never. I wouldn't talk about them. I don't want anybody feeling bad because I said bad words. As time went on and I began to heal, I went to sweat lodges. And one of the sweat lodges I was in, I went to Red Lake. I went to Adam Lucia. He was the kindest man I ever met. You know, when I tell him about my daughter, he would allow me to cry and then say, oh, geez, don't be a baby. And out of that came a dream. And in that dream, this lady came to me. And she had something in a buffalo robe. And I didn't want it. I didn't know what it was. And then finally, the fourth night when she came, I finally took it and I said to her, if I don't want this, I'm going to give it back to you. And I opened it up, and it was a pipe. Same pipe I dreamt about. Everything to the color, everything. And I felt her hair on my arms. It was like horsehair. I tell these things because it's the truth, and this is who I am and how I came to be. One of the things with sobriety that I like is that it's like our way of life. You always look at yourself. Always. Today I went out to the ceremony place. I made a dish. I talked to Ojibwe. I told those spirits, money dues, I need your help. We took a walk, I said. My name is Dancing Snow. A wolf named me. I come from the north direction. That's the direction I come from. So it took me, I'd say about 20 years to find out who I am. 20 years. I've had, even down in cities when I was involved in, I hate to say that, but in politics. I had to be because I was a chair. When I was 28 years old, I was a chair of the board of directors because I opened my big mouth and I wanted to know why our people weren't getting as much as the other people. Why is that? Next thing I know, I'm sitting on the chair of the board of directors. But I fought along a lot of times for my people, for the people. I've been to many ceremonies, different tribes. And one of the things I realized too is that we're all related because we're Indians or whatever you choose to call yourself. Me, I say Anishinaabe. But I walk humbly. I never, even if someone wants to give me some news or something new, news or something, I just listen. You know, I enjoy people. I've learned to love people. I have a lot of friends that from all over Minnesota and the United States and Canada. But it was an honor to do this because I began to think about my walk. And I'm getting ready to do another ceremony. And, but you know, the thing is, the Creator always sent me somebody to come and help me. And I always kept my mind open. That's the key. Don't let that judgment get into your mind. That human side, you know, that sometimes it's good, but... And I always think to myself, how would someone feel if I was mean to them? My dad used to teach my brothers to respect women. He said, you came from one. So anyway, these are a lot of the things that I've gone through. And I still walk my walk, even though I hear rumors and stuff, but it makes me stronger because I just have to smile to myself and I just make another pot of cedar tea. Because that's what keeps me healthy. I almost died last year when I went through the therapy with my thyroid. But all these, I drank Indian medicine. That's all I did. They gave me some other stuff, but I didn't do it. And I've seen other medicine people, and that's what got me through. And so whenever I see an elder, I always try to go by them. When I was younger, I'd go by them and sit by them and go get them coffee. You want a cup of coffee? You want some water? You want some which way you want? I'd go ask them. That's what my grandma taught me. To respect. You don't have to love the person, but to respect them. There's a lot of power in that. For yourself. Miigwech for listening. Kekawabamen. Mirawa. Oh, I know what day I forgot that little joke I was going to say. I have one more thing. I heard this long time ago. I'd say maybe when I was 17, 18, and this elder was talking, and we were closing up because we did a workshop. And he said, well, I want to say a joke, he said. So everybody was like, okay, we want to hear this joke. He says there was 4 gods. They're going on a trip. They're going to go on a vacation. He said, well, where are you going to put your power at, he said. That God was thinking, I'm going to put it in the ocean, where man will never, ever, ever think about going down there. And the other one's looking at him and says, where are you going to put your power? He said, I'm going to put mine up in the mountains. He said, man, I won't think about going up there. Finally, that other one, he was thinking, he said, well, where are you going to put yours at? I'm going to put it inside man. He'll never think about looking in there. Think about it. See you. Go up a minute.
You are listening to KBFT, Minnesota Artist Profiles, a series featuring artists and musicians of Minnesota, brought to you by KBFT 89.9 FM and the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Ruth Porter is an Anishinaabe artist from the Nett Lake Indian Reservation, specializing in traditional Native American beadwork, a craft she has been studying her whole life. Her beautiful artwork can be seen frequently worn by dancers at powwows throughout Minnesota. Hi Ruth, can you introduce yourself please?
Ruth Porter, enrolled member of Boys Fort and currently living in Nett Lake.
What do you specialize in?
Beading and sewing. I bead women's dance sets. They are 7-piece sets, chokers with a choker drop, headband, back barrette, hair ties, and earrings. I also make a lot of earrings and some other items. I sew ribbon skirts and ribbon masks.
What is the greatest reward of being an artist?
Seeing your work worn by other people at powwows.
How has COVID affected your business and your art?
Having no powwows during the COVID pandemic has been hard. I try to go out and sell my work at powwows every summer I like sitting there listening to the drum. It's been hard not being able to do that.
What are some of the challenges with creating your art?
Time. I work full-time as a teacher and have 4 children. It's hard to find time to create. I love being a teacher, a mother, and an artist. But finding the balance to do it all is kind of hard.
Do you have words of encouragement to future artists?
Try. Create as much as you can. Use different colors. Go out of your comfort zone. Just be creative.
Where can we find you and your art?
Ruth Speedwork or Ruth Porter on Facebook.
So you can find Ruth on Facebook by searching for Ruth Porter or Ruth's Beads. And also, if you're out and about in Nett Lake, you just might happen to see her. So be sure to ask about her amazing artwork. Thank you for listening to Minnesota Artist Profiles, brought to you by KBFT and the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
You're listening to The Unexplained, a series on the strange occurrences that have been witnessed or have happened on the Bois Forte Reservation. Brought to you by KBFT, 89.9 FM, and the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
Bonjour, Anin. Gagewanuk and Jushanikaz. That means coming down the river early in the morning when there's fog across the river, like a wannabe sun, fog and mist.
Karen Drift is a Bois Forte elder, language teacher, and storyteller. KBFT's Chaz Wagner brought her into the studio so she could tell this story for the Unexplained series. It was told to her by her grandmother.
Gwejamik away Ginilgishik. Is that your name? Oh. Ginilgishik and Gwejamig. Gita atsu ke bangi. And ngi eyak nigi kido. Ngi Gwejamik away. Meusha nigi kido ni nukomeso gi di barjamon away. Buensi. Ngi segisi men away on nini. Ngi mi had to go bibun ogi bija oma he came in the winter. He was almost like a cannibal. He he was hungry all the time. So she said that he kind of ate his fingers. Ngimo away, and Ninji ate his fingers. Any place he could reach, he said he would eat his skin, his flesh, when he could reach. And if he ran into somebody, That's what he would do to them and give them all away. He would eat them. And she used to tell us, don't go out at night in the winter. Make sure you're in the house. And so we were kind of scared to go out in a winter time, because she said she's seen one herself. She said when she was a little kid that she said that he peeked in, and he didn't have no clothes or something, and she said she could see his bones, and as far as he could reach, where he could bite, that's where he would eat, and she said he liked especially little kids that were out late at night, and that's why she used to tell us we had to be quiet in the evening and just sit. So that's what we'd do in the winter's evening. We'd sit around, and they would tell us a bunch of stories about things that, good things and scary things, but I always liked that, especially in the winter time when it was so cold out and we couldn't go any place, but that 8 years old, maybe even older, because when you're that young, you remember. Some of the stories kind of stick to your head, in your head.
The Unexplained is brought to you by KBFT 89.9 FM and the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
You're listening to a series about outdoor activities, from ricing to survival skills from a boys fort perspective.
My name is Tim Brown, Boys Fort Band, but I wasn't raised around here as my father was in the military. So I was raised all over out west. When I went to college at Idaho State University, and I met up with a Shoshone girl, and I had 3 boys. I started doing Indian relay with the Shoshones while I was going to Idaho State University. During the summers I'd ride relay. We'd be campaigning all over in Idaho and Montana and Wyoming at the Indian festivals.
So it's kind of just in your blood. It's in the family legacies.
It's in the family legacy, and I remember my Uncle Fred, Fred Isham, everybody knows Fred Isham. Fred brought those Ojibwe horses back from Lac LaCroix. He was big in the horses, and always had those kids around the village, talking to him, and everybody was riding them. My dad used to ride those horses around, when he was little. He's 80 now. His brother broke an arm falling off one of them horses way back when. So horses, I've always loved them. So today we're doing Indian relay race. They didn't have it. It's mostly Western tribes that do this Indian relay. And at like Crow Fair, at the Shoshone-Bannock Festival, at all those. And it pretty much started with the Shoshones is what there's a consensus. I've been here and they don't have relay up here on this side of the country, really. It's on the west. But then 4 years ago, Canterbury, they've been working pretty hard with the Sioux people here, Mystic Lake and Mystic, that the tribe wanted to bring the relay back over here. I wanted to ride again. Actually, I wanted my son to ride. He's over there, Derek. He is an awesome rider, and he could do this stuff. And so I wanted to, that's a lot of his heritage too.
How long have you been taking care of horses?
I think I might be the only one ever to ride a horse to work at Fortune Bay. Because I remember riding a horse to work and parking it way back behind the bingo hall in the trees before.
Dang, that's awesome.
before they built that other parking lot, before they took everything, before they built the hotel, it was just trees back there. And I'd ride the horse to work, and yeah, before they had the bike path set up, so it was just rough little road, little trails.
Long time ago.
A long time ago, 1991, 1992, I was riding a horse to work.
And you're still riding horse.
And I'm still riding horse.
What are Indian relay races?
The Indian relay race is 3 horses, and it's around a regular racetrack, like here at Canterbury. So you have your rider who's riding bareback. He takes one turn around the track on the one horse. Now, all the teams are set up in front of like the grandstand area. They're all lined up, so everybody has their own teams. They have their own little area of, their own little box that they have to keep their horses in and their team in. And so when we ride in front of the grandstands, we find where our team is and we cut in. And we kind of just aim for the wall, we aim for our team, and we jump off the horse while it's still running. And we're praying to God that our mugger, he's the guy that catches the horse, is able to catch that horse, because a loose horse is a DQ and disqualification. So he's got to catch that horse. So the mugger catches the horse. We have the setup guy who's setting up the next horse, just perfect, so when the guy jumps off, he can jump back on the next horse. He has to hit the ground, at least with 1 foot, but it's impossible almost to jump off of 1 foot on the other horses. But anyway, so you take a little short run, jump on the other horse, and then go. And then you have the other guy who's holding the extra horse in the background. So you have the rider, the mugger, the setup man, and the back holder. And those are the 4 people on the team, and I'm happy to say I have enough sons to make the team up. It's a lot of conditioning with the horses, and this year, of course, everybody knows how it was back home for us with all the wind, all the thunderstorms, all the lightning. It seems like every time I had a chance to hit the track at Barnum, because I have to drive all the way to Barnum to get to a track, there was thunderstorms. So it was not good that way. We didn't get quite the condition on our horse that we needed to, like our first horse. Last year he was great. They were conditioned. This year, he's lacking a little bit of bottom because he just doesn't have the muscle to go. But he was stronger yesterday than he was the first day, so hopefully he's all right today.
Well, on behalf of the Boys for Tribal Radio, I appreciate the background on your team, your horses, and the event here at Canterbury Park. Miigwech.
Miigwech, thank you.
Good luck tonight. Boys Fort Outdoor is produced by KBFT with support from the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
You're listening to The Unexplained, a series on the strange occurrences that have been witnessed or have happened on the Boys Fort Reservation. Brought to you by KBFT, 89.9 FM, and the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
My name is Michael Connor from Boys Fort. When I was 12, I heard actual footsteps coming up the stairway in my mom's house. I realized that when I got to the door, there was nobody there, and the lights were off downstairs. And after that, there was about 4 or 5 years, my little brother, Marty, I come around a corner, and there he was yelling down the stairs, who's down there? And I asked him who he was talking to. And he said he heard footsteps coming up the stairways, just like I heard before. But then again, no, nobody was down there. I know there's been a few incidents where my niece had seen somebody at the end of the hallway when she was very young. I think she was like 5 or 6 years old. She says there's a man down there, so. And that's not the first time, though. Me and my brother Vern also heard somebody coming down the hallway. thought it was my dad, but my dad was in his room sleeping. Footsteps, and the doors were locked and everything, so there was no way that anybody else could be in there. I do believe, I believe that we live in a spiritual world. My son had me come over to his house in Palmquist. He has a half-brother that was, I think he was 2.5, and he was seeing something that we couldn't see. He was looking past us like it was moving around in the room. And then he'd look at us like, you guys don't see that. But yeah, we live in a spiritual world. I believe in things like that. So on the northeast side, I was appraising timber sale. And it just felt like somebody was looking at me on a ridgetop. That funny feeling that you get on the back, the hairs on your neck stand up and everything. Made me stop in a field. And then I went to the tree line, and then I just walked on the tree line and headed back to the truck. It was an evening time. It was getting dark. And then I shot a deer on West Boundary. And I knew I had 3 extra shells. I knew I hit it. And I could see drops of blood. So I knew where it was, where I left off. And so I went back there, and then I could see that blood trail. And I started walking up on him. And the deer stood up. I was behind the deer probably about maybe 60 feet. I had a scope on the gun, so I raised that gun and I zeroed in on that deer. He was looking at me. But we both heard something on my right side, probably about 200, 300 feet away. The deer was looking in that direction. I was looking in that direction. And I knew whatever it was, there was more than 2. And it seemed like whatever they were kind of communicating. It scared the heck out of me, so I shot the deer hoping that sound would echo, and it just went silent. And then I gutted the deer and I dragged it back to the truck as fast as I could. And I kept looking back just to make sure nothing else was behind us.
The Unexplained is brought to you by KBFT 89.9 FM and the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
You are listening to KBFT, Minnesota Artist Profiles, a series featuring artists and musicians of Minnesota, brought to you by KBFT 89.9 FM and the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Today we meet with Josh Danderand, bassist and songwriter for the 5-piece indie rock band, The Moonlight Community.
This is Josh Danderand for The Moonlight Community. The Moonlight Community is originally from St. Cloud, Minnesota. We met there when we were all going to college. I, at the time, was going to school for music education. We have 2 albums out right now. Our first one was called The Gateway, and our second one is called Anin. And both albums very much show the versatility in our band, in our writers, and in our music in general. If you were to try to categorize it in one simple genre, I would probably say rock, maybe alternative. But it also just depends on the song. We have a song called Dreams from the new album Anin.
Me formulating the plan is just half of the battle.
Just half of the battle.
Then one day I'll be big like Cobain in Seattle.
Cobain in Seattle.
If you're feeling you're up in the creek with no paddle.
That's hip-hop, and it was our first one ever, and it's a crowd favorite. We have some beautiful slow ballads, like Save Yourself, our second single from Anin.
Save yourself from the certain doom that's ahead of you. Save yourself from the burning fire that will bring you down. Save yourself.
We have some heavy metal. We have one song called No from The Gateway that's heavy. We have one song called Stars from Anin that's heavy. We have a 50s style sock hop song called Marble Eyes that's on Anin. We have a techno song called Galaxy on Anin. You name it, and we've either done it or we intend to do it. We almost want to be a band that could replace the shuffle program on your Spotify or iTunes. We'd love it if you just wanted to listen to whatever, right? You're vacuuming or you're doing dishes, and you want to listen to lots of different varieties of music. We'd love to be the band that you just plug our name in and you get everything you want. And with the different backgrounds that we have as individual musicians, we're becoming very good at succeeding in that goal. We all listen to all different types of music, and you can hear it in the individual songwriter's influence. And also, when it comes to writing, we don't think of genres. I think we think more of what's happening in our life the day that the song gets written. We write about things at face value sometimes, like falling in love or something, or getting your heart broken. We also write about things that need to be interpreted by the listener. Purpose of life, meaning, where are we? Why are we? So just like in the genre, musically, our topics and our lyrics, we try to incorporate all different types of meanings and stuff behind our lyrics.
I am lost in this world. I can't seem to find my way. Every right turn curves left into the wrong. And now I guess I'll just move along.
If someone out there is listening and they want to start doing something creative, whether they're writing poetry, starting a band, trying to get their physical artwork out there, man, just go for it. Always go for it. There's really no downside to it. The worst thing that could happen is people say they don't like it, but whatever. That's not a big deal because other people will say that they do like it. I've found a lot of time that negativity only comes from people who want you to not be happy. So when you realize that, then actually nothing should ever really upset you or bring you down or stop you from creating, because if they're being negative, it's just because they're not very happy with the fact that you're happy. So once you realize that, it becomes pretty easy to not care about any negativity and then love the positivity, and just ride with it. And, when it comes down to it, if you're creating something, it's yours anyway, right? Of course you want to share it with others and you want to bring joy or whatever emotion you're trying to emote with your art. The first thing is you got to love it, and it's something you created and that you're proud of, and that's awesome.
Forgot.
But I love playing with my bandmates, James, Matt, AJ, and Dante. When we're playing a live show and we're just nailing it and we're jumping all over the stage and swinging our guitars and just rocking out, there's just nothing better. Close your eyes, absorb all that sound and all those lights, just knowing that your best friends are right there on stage with you doing what you're doing and you're clicking. That's a great reward right there. Also, when you write a song and then you bring it to your band and it becomes a full band song and then you record it and then you get to listen to it, that's a pretty good reward too. Challenges during COVID. Well, this one has an asterisk by it. This one's a little different because this one has definitely been challenging because we can't play anywhere. We were supposed to play 5 festivals this summer. We ended up playing 0, of course. And, we tried our best during the pandemic to give things to our fans and to potential fans. And, of course, it's all positive. And it's been tough because in those platforms of social media, everyone is generally very much lured in by negativity. So if you're trying to lure people in with positivity, it doesn't really work. But having said that, if we happen to run across someone in face-to-face, which isn't often, they usually show a extreme interest in us. So who knows? Maybe it's a challenge. Maybe it's an opportunity to go more grassroots. And when this whole thing's over, maybe we'll do more flyers and billboards. I don't think we'll do a billboard, but you know what I mean. Old school marketing, old school word of mouth, because that does seem to attract more positive outcomes than what social media has become.
Where can we find your music?
If you're looking for Moonlight Community, you can find us anywhere that you look for music. We're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on Apple Music, we're on Google Play, we're on Amazon Music, YouTube Music, of course, Facebook. And honestly, I think the best way to find us is our website, because it's a one-stop shop, and that is just themoonlightcommunity.com. Pretty cool little website, and it has everything you'd ever need to know about us. You know, the overall message of the Moonlight Community is to be yourself. I think when you take every song we've ever written, and if you put them into like a word generator, it would probably come out as community, which is, I guess we have an appropriate band name then. We have crazy background stories. We have a veteran in our band. We have a cancer survivor in our band. We have a diabetic in our band. We have people who have grieved with close personal deaths in our band. We're kind of a soap opera of sorts. And because of that, our biggest goal is to give whatever we can to whoever we can, whoever needs it. And because of all the crazy things that have happened to us as individuals, we have a really good door to go through that a lot of other people have gone through as well. We've lived lives that other people are living right now. We can relate, and we can be advice givers, or just good listeners, or just a band that makes music that makes people happy. So we're gonna always be this way, and we love meeting people. We love working with people, and maybe one day you'll come see us at a show and we'll hang out, have some fun, dance.
Thank you for listening to Minnesota Artist Profiles, brought to you by KBFT and the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
You're listening to Native Writers Fest, a series that features Native literary talent from Minnesota and beyond.
Wewenepes in the Mokoma, KBFT. I was just like a rock star, just kidding. Bonjour, Kanan and the Magna Takoma. Wewenepes in the Muk, KBFT, Shinikate, 89.9 FM on your dial.
Ron Konutsky is a stand-up comedian from Thunder Bay, Ontario. He hails from the Red Rock Band of Ojibwe at Lake Helen. His inspiration to get into comedy went back to his public school days. He wanted to mix rock and roll with comedy.
And one of the guys that I really looked up to came along. His name was Sam Kinison. And he's the one who developed that and took it over the top. And I remember my friend saying, you came up with that. You actually talked about that. And I said, yeah, but that man delivered it.
Sam Kinison wasn't the only influence. He remembers a friend pulling out a beta tape of another famous comedian.
Really school. Yeah, my friend says, come over here. And it was really weird because we closed the curtains and we went inside and he locked the door because we didn't want any adults coming in. I was like, what's going on here? What are you going to put on? I had no idea what he was going to share with me. And we watched Eddie Murphy Delirious. And I was like, man, I haven't seen anything like that. I said, I want to do that for a living.
He told his dad he wanted to be a comedian, but didn't receive the words of encouragement he was hoping for. So he put that dream aside for a while. It wasn't until he turned 40 that he started working with people and found his purpose. And he still had a passion to play music and do comedy. And that's when he entered a comedy competition. He got second place.
When the comedy opportunity popped up again, I heard of these competitions that were happening in town. I heard it on the radio, and I drove to the radio station and I signed up. And as soon as I did that, I got scared right away. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if my dad told me I can't do this. It's not possible, you know. So I got really scared about this, and so I went in this competition. I was citywide, and I got second place. And I felt like I failed. And there was a guy from Chicago. His name was John Caponera. He came up to me and he said, I don't know how they judge here, son. He said, but you're number one in my books. He goes, he said, this is subjective. He said, but you're funny. He said, you said stuff that I have never heard before. You're not stealing anyone's material. And he says, that guy that won, he ain't going to be back. He's never going to go into this. He said, you got the taste for this. He says, you want more. He says, you'll be back. You'll win this. And he says, the question is, what are you going to do after that?
He won the competition the following year. In Thunder Bay, he said he was the king of comedy.
Just standing up here. Like right here is a tan. This is under here. Oh, it's just really white. I am so white.
Konutsky isn't sure what the future holds. He says he doesn't want comedy to become a burden. He wants it to remain fun.
And it's just about living the moment and having an experience. And as long as you're having a good time doing it, that's all that matters. You know, that's for me, anyways. I'm not shooting for anything. I know in the beginning I thought, I have to get on TV. I have to get on this show. And I started to have woke up out of fairy tale land that some of these places ain't as big as they claim to be. You know, everybody's striving to get to this place or that place in New York City or Los Angeles, and it's just another place.
Konutsky worked really hard to get where he is today. His words of advice to others who want to get into comedy: you don't have to go the traditional route of open mics and small nightclubs to be successful. You can do it yourself. Ron said he built his own shows, and people came.
What I did is I created my own shows, and then I hired other comedians in the community of Thunder Bay that I thought were funny. I built my own bills, and I made my own shows. And I skipped that nightclub begging for a show. I said, that's like a bar band kind of thing. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Not get paid for my craft, giving it away for free, and keep being told you're going to get exposure. I've been exposed to many things, you know, weather, particularly in the north. I don't need any more exposure.
For KBFT, I'm Allison Herrera. Native Writers Fest is a production of the Nut Lake Radio Project and is supported by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
Welcome to Historical Window, a program that lets you experience the past and treasure the history of the Boisfort Band of Ojibwe through the voices of our elders. Today we'll be talking with Hank Masabi.
Well, I was born here, but my mother took me out to res when I was just a baby. Went out to the range, Bemidji and Bagley. And then she left me with a great aunt. And I never knew my father. I didn't know who he was, or I hadn't seen him until I was 16. I first met him when I was 16. But my mother had left me with an aunt, a grand aunt. I wouldn't go to school, I wouldn't do nothing, because my mother's gone, my father's gone, I'm by myself, and I was angry. Mm-hmm. So they put me in foster homes, and I was in something like 16 different foster homes throughout my whole life. And I could never stay in one place, because I could never attach, or mm-hmm. I could never attach to anybody or feel anything for them. Mm-hmm. And I'd run away and I'd do things to get in trouble and wouldn't go to school. It wasn't a good life. And then they put me eventually. That was around 6 years old that I remember. And then when I was 10, they put me into Pipestone down in southern Minnesota. And I was down there for a year and a half. And then they brought me up here and put me in another foster home. So most of my life has been foster homes, and I've never attached to anybody. So my daughter was like 16 years old, and she wanted to know where I came from, where I was born. So we came up here, and of course that's been, she's 52 years old now, so it's been quite a while ago. And we came up here, and it wasn't as progressive or as it is now. It was pretty wild and woolly down at the time. I don't know if you know. I've never lived on the reservation other than that I have now. But we came up here. There weren't that many buildings, and the buildings didn't look that well. So she wasn't really impressed. I never really thought about moving up here. I never thought about living on a reservation until about 2 years ago. My youngest daughter, started a job up here. And she told me about it, and I says, well, I don't think so. I says, I don't want to live on a reservation. But she says, Dad, you should. She says, there's a lot of benefits